It's live. I guess it went live. Hey guys, it's Stone Guy 223. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Google's acting a little funny. Not sure if people are getting links or not. I've sent out a few, but there again, I've had people say that they're not coming through. So I don't know. We'll just play it by ear, see what happens, and yeah, if people filter in, great. If not, it may be a short chat. But anyway, real quick, we had David join us. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, buddy? Long time no see.
Yeah, how you doing?
Not bad, one day at a time. How about yourself?
That's all we can do, brother. Plugging along.
I hear that.
So, David's from An American Warning TV. Accomplished author now. How's that going for you?
You know what? It's been good. I'm very thankful. We've got a great team going over there now. We got Chris Ann Hall from Liberty First, and Dr. Vliet and Dr. Heiler from Seton University. A lot of great content going on over there, and I don't know, man. I'm blessed to have that team, and just a ridiculous amount of information being poured out of there. It's pretty. I don't know. It's humbling.
Nice. And we got gun websites with us. Yep,
thanks for the link, but now I'm jealous. I wish I had a bunch of doctors working for me.
Right. All right. We got Glock Guru just hopped in. What's up, buddy?
What's up, ladies?
Ladies, look at him. In here 2 minutes, started talking shit.
With his attitude.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. It's been this whole Google, YouTube thing's been acting weird. So, like I said, I don't know. Hopefully it's posted on my channel. So, anyway, the plan was to get to continue.
Do we have more than 2 viewers now?
Well, yeah, and see that we were going to continue with TAC Daddy, but that whole bunch didn't get their links for some reason. So I don't know what the deal is with that. So I don't know. We'll just play it by ear, see how it rolls out. I guess we could go ahead and throw the fuel right on the fire to start with, because the big topic that we started TAC Daddy's chat with was the whole homeless man shot by police, and there was a lot of
When was this?
speculation and banter. I think 2 days ago, 3 days ago.
Oh, I missed it, I guess, completely.
Oh, you didn't even hear about
country? It? No, I guess not. I mean, the last one I heard about something like that was the one in Albuquerque, but that was a while ago.
Oh no, this was like I said 2 or 3 days ago. This was in Los Angeles, our lovely LAPD. There's video on it. Of course, it's kind of sketchy.
Wait, there's poor people in California? I thought the state took care of all of them.
So that's a secret web.
So here's the gist of it, the way I see it, or my interpretation, not saying whether it's right, wrong, or the police contacted a man who had a history of mental illness. He had just been released from what records indicate. He had just been released from a mental hospital. The police had contacted him several times. The start of the video kind of shows him very belligerent, throwing his arms around, swinging wildly at officers.
He's doing the tornado.
Yeah, he's doing the tornado. Officers take him down. There's 4 or 5 of officers on this guy. Then some little crackhead grabs one of the cops' batons and tries to hit one of the cops. So 2 cops break off from the main suspect and take him or her. It's kind of hard to tell what it is, but take them down. You hear a taser. From all indications, it's like the taser's being deployed directly. It wasn't on leads.
Details this morning about the homeless man who was killed by.
So that seemed to be ineffective, because at some point you hear the officer yell, "Drop my gun," or "Let go of my gun," or "Drop the gun," or something. you hear a single shot, which I think was the guy shooting the officer's gun, because you hear one shot and then a good 3 or 4 or 5 second pause, and then you hear 5 or 6 shots in rapid succession, which obviously was the one officer shooting the guy, killing him. So it's kind of sketchy.
What was the reason for the initial contact?
I believe it was a burglary call. There was 4 or 5 homeless people in that area that are kind of set up. They have tents, and I don't know if they were just going to investigate the burglary or whatever. But initially, when they confronted the guy, it didn't go well, and that's what led to, there's conflicting stories of whether the officers kind of came at him aggressively in the first place, and which caused this guy to react violently. That's not on video, so it's hard to speculate. But
it doesn't matter. I mean, as the suspect, no matter what the scenario is, you just have to be complacent until proven otherwise. I've been, part of mistaken identity scenarios and things like that. I might have known I was innocent, but until I can show ID and show that this car is mine, or whatever else, I can't rush to judgment and be combative.
Right.
Until that point, right? So I haven't seen the video or whatever. I'm just saying, too many times I think that people feel that they have some kind of right to argue a case on the street rather than in court, and think that they're in the right and they're going to go home, based on what they think in their mind, regardless of
Well,
had a report on that car being stolen.
Right, and the biggest thing that bothers me, and because it's at this point we don't know exactly, even with the video, it's hard to differentiate who's doing what, and but at least from the video and from all indications, at some point, and see what's horrible is the media and everybody else that's jumping on this bandwagon keeps saying unarmed homeless man. Well, yeah, he may have started unarmed, but at some point he got control of an officer's firearm. So at that point he was not an unarmed man. So that needs to be, they kind of need to nip that in the bud right there and quit tugging at the heartstrings of people saying he was an unarmed homeless man, just a poor victim. Bullshit. Now whether or not he deserved to be, well, that's neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is he grabbed an officer's gun and he was shot and killed for it, and that's kind of the
Their circumstances do apply. I haven't seen the video, and what I did see I couldn't tell much from, but I firmly believe that if you're an idiot and you go for an officer's gun when he's not threatening you with deadly force, and you are going to get yourself killed, and you should know that. But I also believe that just like I as a citizen don't have a right to go up and antagonize someone to the point where they become a threat to me and then gun them down because they are now a threat to me, a police officer does not have that right either.
Exactly, and I think that's the only gray area is how the initial contact was made and what escalated the situation to the point where you have 4 officers wrestling on the ground, tasing this guy, and for him to even be able to, obtain an officer's firearm is beyond me.
Like that video that was from, I forget, I think it might have been from Virginia that time, about 3 or 4 years ago, where they had a trial for where the cops shot this guy, and he did go for the cop's gun, and the cops did submit the dash cam for the trial, but then when the attorney subpoenaed the full video with audio, the police officer is telling him, I'm going to shoot you in the fucking head, get out of the car, I'm going to shoot you in the fucking head, and the guy grabs the officer's gun as he's shoot him in the head. So therefore, I think that guy was very justified in grabbing the officer's gun when he told, "I'm going to shoot you in the head when you get out of the car."
Right.
Well, and see, here's the thing with this situation is we're looking at a bunch of officers who knew what the situation was walking into it. We're walking up. We're going to do a stop on a guy that might have been involved in a burglary. He has mental illness. Everybody knew that. So it shouldn't, in no way, shape, or form, should it have been an ordinary stop. No way, or contact, or whatever you want to call it. It should have been where everybody was, on alert and anticipating the guy acting as though he had a mental illness. It's like dealing with an autistic child. You probably are not going to treat an autistic child the same way that you would a non-autistic child. You're just not going to address it the same way, especially if you know that is the situation. You're going to treat it differently because it needs to be treated differently. Here's a guy who's doing the tornado. I mean, that in and of itself, I think says everything.
So
That's
what
his
point does that
attack.
level out, though, whenever they grab your gun? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Well, but like we said, though, you don't have the right to put yourself in a situation and then antagonize someone to grab your gun and then shoot them for it. So circumstances do matter. And the problem I've seen a lot nowadays is so many officers ignore the part of their training that is conflict avoidance.
De-escalation, yeah.
Because they know I'll just shoot them if they get out of line.
Well,
And
Right.
I'll tell you one that gets me, and that I bust, my friends that are cops, I bust their balls about it all the time. And that's whenever someone's in a car, they're in a vehicle, and then they get out, and then they stand in front of the car, and then they start shooting at the car because they're not stopping. When, in my opinion, they got out of their vehicle and put themselves in harm's way. So they're not justified in shooting when they're in the car. But whenever they get out and they stand in front of a vehicle, now all of a sudden, they're in life or death situation. They can shoot at the car.
All right. Well, yeah.
There was a few cops in New Jersey. There was a few cops in New Jersey recently. I think it was New Jersey, where if it wasn't for dashboard cams and this guy, taking them to court or whatever, it was pretty much like they were beating the shit out of this guy. He was black. He was a black dude. They pulled him over. They were just beating the shit out of him. I think he said he didn't stop because he was scared or whatever. And at the whole time they're beating the shit out of this guy, they're screaming, "Get off my gun! He's going for my gun!" So is that like code word for we can do whatever the fuck we want, even if there's cams on? We can just say, "He's going for my gun! He's going for my gun!" And that's just like carte blanche. I just don't agree. And that those cops did not get away with it. They are all going to jail. Like they all lost their badges and they're all going to jail.
That works a couple different ways though, because even with officers, if you're the one that and most of them have cameras now, if you're in a position where you're the aggressor, you're the aggressor, you're pointing it out. That works both ways. And so, but you're right. In the idea that that is okay. Well, it's like the situation in New Mexico. You had that pre-talk and the repeating of the words, and or what was the situation? Was it Detroit? He's got a gun. He's got a gun. He's got a gun. He's got a gun. Well, yeah, he had a gun, but he wasn't even reaching for it. It was just open carry. But the guy's screaming as though he's waving it around, going to shoot everybody. I don't know. It's just it's insanity, and I think as a society, for some dumb reason, we put up with it. But my question is this. If a guy's doing a tornado, any one of you going to react the way the police did if somebody's trying to do the tornado on you? I looked at that video.
I watched that video. What really bothered me the most, honestly, a man losing his life, that bothered me too. That bothered me the most, but we don't know the circumstances because of the video and the angle. But what really bothered me beyond belief was the skinny, crackhead, 80-pound woman who picked up the the nightstick, for 2 police officers to be futzing around with her for that long is absolutely ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, maybe if they would have just let her keep the freaking nightstick, or if they kicked her in the chest even, and kicked her through a plate glass window, that would have been better than standing around fighting with her while that was going on in the background. It was just totally inept, man. It was bothersome.
Well, then here's the thing, man. You gotta. There's so much complexity in a situation like that where not only she's female, you've got obviously a large demographic of the same, a large presence of like-minded people there, filming and heckling and so for an officer's got all this processing in the back of his mind of, obviously they don't want to, even though she was the aggressor toward, as soon as she picked up that nightstick and took an aggressive posture towards the officers, they had,
she was literally, you to look at her, she looked like 70 pounds, she looked about 5 feet tall. For 2 officers to be messing around with her would look like way too long, in my opinion. Like, cuff her and throw her in a fucking car, punch her in the face, do something.
But see, that's the problem. You can't. The officer can't.
But you're also
so much going on. You can't. The officer's not going to punch a woman in the face.
What were they doing? They were sitting around messing with her.
You are required to only respond with force with appropriate force. You are not allowed to use deadly force because someone points, nail clippers at you and threatens to give you, trim your hangnails.
Right.
You have to use appropriate force.
Well, and think about the history that they
shoot a 90-pound woman because she got a nightstick is not appropriate.
No,
what bothered me was there were 2 officers. 2 officers were trying to handcuff a 50-pound crackhead woman, and it looked like they were having a hard time with it. If you watch the video, it's like, what are they doing?
Hold on, DB. You gotta
remember that it sometimes 3 people. It takes sometimes 2 or 3 people to subdue someone without harming them.
Exactly. That's what I was just about to say. You've got to think they've got to be tactile in their approach towards this woman, not only for all the bystanders. Not that not saying that just because they're being filmed they're being more cautious, but let's call a spade a spade. If they'd been on a dark alley, would they have handled it differently? Maybe, but being that there was that many people watching, they knew that they needed to do everything as...
Okay, but let's look at the elephant in the room here. They all had nightsticks. Obviously, they were dropping their nightsticks in order to pick up their guns. And here's a guy doing the tornado. Why didn't they just beat him with the nightsticks if he was such a threat?
Well, and see, this is what we were talking about earlier. The escalation of force met with with equal force. Nightstick, you can kill someone with a nightstick.
You can kill somebody with a backhanded tornado fist.
Yeah, and the taser, I think the taser was a good idea because that's what they're meant for. They're a less lethal option to get a suspect in compliance and to take them down and safely, so they don't hurt themselves or anybody else. Well, when that from the looks of it, there again, I don't know what happened, but when that taser didn't work, I can only imagine what those officers were going through as far as the shock and surprise of why that taser wasn't doing what it's designed to do. And I mean, because
do they not train people that doesn't work on everybody?
Oh yeah, but it's very rare, man. It's very
I watched a video of a guy who was trying to have a conversation with a cop. The cop's like, "Look, man, we're gonna tase you. We're gonna tase you." He's like, "Do what you gotta do." He tases him, and he's like, "All right, look." I mean, he's in the middle of getting tased. He says, "All right, look, I'll do what you're asking me. I'll do what you're asking me." And then, I mean, very nonchalantly, just didn't faze him. I don't know. I'm thinking about the nightsticks. I'm thinking about the whirlwind. I'm thinking about the taser, and I'm thinking, why did anybody let a mentally handicapped guy and I call him mentally handicapped, mentally disturbed, whatever you want to call him. Everybody knew ahead of time that this dude was something was wrong. How are you going to let that guy get close enough to be a threat, knowing
see,
ahead of time?
That's my problem with the whole
It's like
thing.
saying,
you said.
I know a train is coming down the track, but I'm going to sit here and I'm going to wait. I'm going to see how close this thing can get before I decide to react.
Well, sometimes, unfortunately, they don't have the luxury of doing that, though, because you're also put in a situation where, okay, so there's a crazy guy, he just robbed a bank, he's got a gun, he's sitting on the street, and you say, okay, I'm going to call in, I'm going to get a mental health specialist here, a crisis intervention specialist here, and I'm not going to approach him until then, and then he starts fucking shooting people, and then your job's on the line because why did not you deal with that threat immediately? Why didn't you approach him? Your job is to put yourself in dangerous situations. Why didn't you do it? So, I mean, there is a double-edged sword thing here, so...
Sure, but I mean, he wasn't holding a gun when he was deciding to pull a Greensburg. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
That's probably just the most ridiculous move I've ever seen in my life.
There was like 3 or 4 cops were on top of him. His legs are moving around. That's like obvious from the video. You hear the taser going off, and from what I've seen, when people get hit with those tasers, they drop like a bag of bricks. You know, they basically freeze up. This guy, he was still moving and kicking and punching or whatever. Then you start hearing, get off my gun, or drop the gun, or he's got my gun. He says it like 3 times. Then that guy...
He's got a gun, he's got a gun, he's got a gun.
Okay, because I heard like, he's got my gun, or drop the gun.
Drop the gun is what I hear.
Drop the gun, right.
Now, was he involved in an armed robbery right beforehand?
They say it was a mugging. I don't know if it was a burglary, but they say it was a mugging.
Like a Wells Fargo robbery, like he robbed a Wells Fargo or something.
No, see, I read that he was a bank robber in the past, and that he was on he's a criminal, you know, convicted bank robber years ago. But I didn't know if that was a bank robbery right then. But that's what I read, that he was a bank robber. No, but I mean, in a previous life, he was a bank robber.
Oh, gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Now, I think David made a good point earlier, is the fact that, you know, especially because it was well documented that he had the issues that he had. And then, of course, obviously Yankee made a good point where you don't have the luxury of waiting, but in this situation, he wasn't actively engaged in anything aggressive or violent, or, you know. So I think in all aspects of law enforcement, there's a huge disconnect between the criminals, so to speak, or the, you know, any suspect that you contact. There's not, let's see how to put this. There's people, they don't take in consideration their mental state. I don't think officers are well trained in handling the mental deficiencies that some of these people have.
There are specialists for that, but here's the problem, though. If law enforcement that's working on, say, the streets of West Hollywood or in Los Angeles or New York City, if those law enforcement officers, which are already stretched pretty thin on being able to actually intervene on things they need to intervene on, if they took the time with every time someone has mental illness or every time someone looks like, hey, this guy ain't right, we need to call in a specialist, and they stood there and waited the hour or 2 hours that it took to get someone there to do that, you would have no police coverage in your city, because every officer would be spending every minute of their day waiting for them.
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying. Not to call and wait, but I think an officer, that there should be more attention during the training.
But there's only so much you can do as an armed officer confronting someone, usually solo or with 2 people. If you, every time you saw someone that had mental illness, you decided, okay, if I approach by myself, I run into this issue, and this issue, you're going to be all day long spending your time deciding, okay, do I just not bother with this, or do I sit and wait for another 2 officers to show up and help me out?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because let's look at that as a personal level. You know, say you're at a bar or a restaurant or something like that. There's a guy across the way. He's like being even aggressive. You know, he's just being a jerk. He's talking about kicking your ass or doing whatever. You're a conceal and carry holder, and then your buddy across the way goes, "I know that guy. He's got a mental illness." And then all of a sudden, you know, you're outside with your buddies, you're getting ready to leave. He comes out and he follows you and then starts busting a windmill on you. You're not going to pull out your gun and shoot the guy because he's doing a windmill. You understand ahead of time that he's got a mental illness. You're going to approach it differently.
No, I wouldn't. If someone became a physical threat to me, I don't concern myself with their motivation as much at first as I do concern myself with my own personal safety. Because if I don't start a conflict, I see myself in no way obligated to take even a single punch from anybody.
So you don't see yourself as physically superior in a situation to a mentally handicapped person?
Do you know how many people are in jail right now for what they call single punch homicides?
Oh, sure.
Someone with one punch? I'm not going to make myself one of those statistics simply because someone might have a mental illness. If they become a threat to me, their mentality is not my primary motivation. And also, here's the other thing. If I'm in a bar and a guy is starting trouble, I can walk away. I'm not a police officer. I'm not in any way obligated by duty to intervene there. I can leave. The police officers are obligated by their duty to intervene in these situations. So there is a little bit of a difference.
You know, and shame on Los Angeles. I don't know if this is humanitarian or what, but to set up an area where homeless people, tent city or whatever, right there, and it just basically becomes an area where there's mentally ill people there. Like that's basically, most homeless people are mentally ill. That's why they're homeless. That's
actually
it's a little bit of a stereotype.
Yeah, that's a fallacy. But most people that are mentally ill are just people that were living paycheck to pay, or most people that are homeless were just people living paycheck to paycheck that had one or two bad things happen to them. But it's shame on the entire culture for the lack of mental health system that we have. The reason they congregate in places like California is climate. If you're homeless, you got to live on the streets. You go someplace where it's warm. So, you know, that's why they congregate so much in these areas like Florida, California. We get a lot of them in Oregon because we have a temperate climate that come from, you know, Idaho, Nebraska.
That might be true for the lazy homeless.
Yeah.
The hardworking homeless can stay up north.
But, yeah, so, you know, it's just shame on the nation that offer our healthcare system. Why we can spend so much money
on it. How many, you want to take it a step further, how many people who are in prison right now are in prison simply because they had a mental health disorder and were prematurely released, or, you know, they shut down a lot of these government-run mental health centers decades ago.
A lot of them. Actually, I saw
that's where they got arrested. That's what happened.
Yeah, two of the number one causes for imprisonment in this country, as of, I think it was like 2002, I saw this study on, was mental illness and drug possession. Those were like the two largest causes for people being in prison.
Well, you would think that they would get help once they're in the system for their mental health issues. Right?
I mean,
no? It goes unnoticed or something? Like, I don't know.
Pretty sure they do that every afternoon after they cure them from thugs in the morning.
I don't know. And the other thing about people who, you know, become homeless because everyone's living paycheck to paycheck that I know, I totally understand. It can happen to anybody. But then if you've been homeless for 15 years, or this guy, I think, was like, he robbed the bank in the 80s or something. He's, you know, if you've been homeless for that long, even if you didn't start out with mental health issues, don't you think eventually it would get to you? I mean, it would break you.
Yeah, you're going to crack some. It ain't easy living on the street.
Yeah, but I mean, in New York, when they cleaned up Manhattan, they cleaned up New York City because they started arresting homeless people, and the outrage in the beginning was, how could they do that? But they were arresting them and then bringing. Yeah, well, they were bringing them to a shelter. It was either you're going to go to the shelter or you're going to get arrested.
Which, if they volunteered in a shelter, they are sometimes even more dangerous than prison. But it wasn't. They didn't just pick them up, take them to shelters. They arrested them. Then they would put them on buses and take them outside of city limits and state lines and just drop them off.
Well, let's look at policy here. Okay, here's how to handle the mentally ill per police protocol. Emotionally disturbed individuals should be answered by more than one officer, which they did. Move slowly, resist the impulse to act hastily, which you know, that's a matter of debate. As a matter of policy, it's usually a good idea to send a uniformed officers, which of course they did. Do not rely on your weapons. The threat of a gun is quite meaningless to people who are acutely disturbed. They may grab it and use it, or you may be tempted to use it. A weapon should be used only in the rare situation when it is necessary to save a life.
You're reading their manual?
Yeah. Don't be fooled by the individual size. Don't meet hostility with hostility. Don't argue with delusions, but don't agree either. Don't be fooled by a sudden return to reality. Take all suicidal behavior seriously. Make sure individuals are not physically ill or injured. Keep a record of a person's complaints regarding plots against him or her. Learn what community facilities are available. Remember, the most disturbed people are afraid. Don't make fun of other people's troubles. Maintain your sense of humor. Excerpt from Psychological Aspects of Police Work, an Officer's Guide to Street Psychology. There you go.
Yeah, that's I don't know. I would just with the so many situations we've seen lately where there seems to be a lot more of these mentally deficient people that have become victims to police shootings. It seems like there would be a push for officers to have a little more decorum and training in dealing with someone like that, so that they know. I don't know.
I know you guys are. This is you.
Well,
you
like
guys
they have
might
bomb
jump on
squad
me
people
there,
to deal with that, and they got hostage rescue to deal with that. Don't they have somebody to deal with crazy people? I'm
Yes,
sure
they
they
do. They do have that. Almost every police department has, a psychological response team.
Right.
They usually call them like
We've
special.
had crazy people since the beginning of time, probably, right? So it's not like it's a new phenomenon.
Oh yeah, exactly. But like Yankee was saying, you can't necessarily call in a behavioral specialist every time you encounter a crazy person, so to speak.
Now, there's usually like one
What
or
about if there's like this, just like 911? If there's like a center where the specialists can be, and then the officers can tune in with their little Skynet cameras.
Yeah, there you
And
go.
then, okay,
Sounds like a good
this
movie.
guy's acting like this. Say this, or I don't know. Isn't there
Well, I
somebody
mean-
that specialist can be
Yeah,
at remote?
How many encounters, those of you in here with law enforcement experience, have you had with someone who wasn't under mental duress when they called 911?
I don't have law enforcement experience, but watch a lot of Quincy, and it's about 70% of the show.
Well, that's just it. I mean, I would probably say, in some capacity, when you're talking about being called versus stopping someone, when you're being called, I'd say 60% have mental issues.
Yeah, I'd like to start a White House petition.
Well, and if
for-
there's
to
somebody
save-
who's like right on the border and then violent, you still got to deal with them as a cop, and you don't. It's not like you go, oh, and also they would seem like they might have had issues. You just deal with them as the criminal or sometimes as the innocent person that's.
Well, and I guess that's what.
It's like in downtown Portland not too long ago, we had a guy that had serious mental health issues. He had a history of mental illness. He was being treated. He wasn't like a homeless person. He was someone who had a fairly, stable and supportive family, and he was on medications for his, his bipolar and everything else he had. And he just stopped taking his medicine and went freaking crazy and started attacking people at the Mac station downtown with a butcher knife, and the police shot him. And of course, people threw a fit that, oh, you shot a person that had mental health issues. Well, he was being an active threat to people. So you always do have to take into account that it doesn't matter your motivation. If you're an active threat to other people, police have to intervene. And a lot of times, you can't tell whether someone is an active threat at the moment just by looking. You have to approach. You have to speak to them. You have to evaluate them. I mean, you've been called there for a reason. Something's going on, or you wouldn't be called there 90% of the time. So sometimes just evaluating the level of the threat places you in a situation where you are duty bound to intervene, and a lot of times, unfortunately, that takes you to the stage where violence is required.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing there is the fact that, like you said, if someone is being violent and aggressive, absolutely their mental state, while should be considered somewhat, isn't gonna keep you from ending that threat. You know what I'm saying?
If someone comes at me with a butcher knife, I'm not going to go, are they really mad at me, or did they just have a bad day at work?
You know, but a butcher knife is a hell of a lot different than a tornado move.
But the butcher knife, you recognize that as a threat because your brain tells you, yes, a butcher knife is a threat. And see, the problem that you're facing there is you're not realizing, and I'm not saying you individually, but people don't realize that a man my size, 200 pounds, throwing a punch is deadly.
But that's not a punch. You can literally just step out of the way from his tornado move.
Yeah, but that don't mean he's not faking me out with the right, and then as soon as I turn, he's going to lay me out with a left.
Did you watch the video?
Yes.
In other words,
yeah, but the other thing is we don't
saying
see
it's
what
not so
happened
much the
before.
tactics as the intent. That it doesn't matter what the tactics are when they're aimed at a law enforcement officer. It's the intent of someone who's willing to go over that line and cause harm to an officer. It doesn't matter if it's effective or not. It's that they've
No,
made
I understand that, but and that's not in dispute. What I'm saying is that this clearly does not justify what you guys are saying, because that's not a threat. You can disengage like a half a foot and just let them run mill around, and I mean it doesn't do anything. And then
there are
you
so
also got
many
to think
out of
about
work-
too, because then you're also in a situation where you can blanket a situation like this. Because think about it, it's like, all right, guys, getting ready to commit suicide, obviously in mental distress. So you know, walking into the situation, the guy is suicidal. He's probably not thinking in the right direction, and then you're going to end up shooting him because he's aggressive. Okay, fine, but don't go out there to save him if all you're going to do is kill him anyway. I mean, that's
Remember, an officer's...
Most of the time, they are going to save them. It might be the
Right.
2 to 5% of the time they don't. They have to kill them. So I don't say don't intervene because that doesn't justify the 97. That doesn't devalue the 95% of the time or whatever. I'm just making that number up of the time they do save the person.
And an officer's primary concern is the public safety. You know, their individual safety is, also paramount, but they have to act in the greater good of public safety. So, he can't just walk away and say that guy is going to swing around and he's not going to hurt anyone, right? He still has to, deal with that, the best way that he knows how and with the tools at his disposal.
So 6-on-1, a gun is still the best solution. All right, I'm just trying to make sure I'm.
Well, no, David, hold on a second. Absolutely not. But let's fast forward, okay? Because I'm agreeing with you to the fact that when he's spinning around doing that tornado punch shit, just wailing like a 3-year-old pitching a hissy fit.
Yeah, thank you.
Like at that point, he wasn't armed at that point, and they could have maybe switched up the tactics. Who knows? I mean, that was a judgment call. I think they could have handled it a little different. But
yeah, these guys are trained in hand-to-hand things.
Right.
I mean,
so let's fast forward though. So let's I think we can agree that maybe whatever. But let's fast forward to the fact that now he's on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
The tasing obviously wasn't effective because he wouldn't have been able to grab the gun if it had been. So So he at some point from one witness statement, from the cop statements, and from what's being said, at some point he has a firearm. So at that point, when he has a firearm, then that whole tornado punch is out the window. At that point, he is a viable threat with a firearm.
Well, and also I got to say, though, right here, right now, a lot of the things we're saying are defensive statements and made for, to illustrate the fact that there is a lot of gray area and often there is a lot of justification for things that seem like they're over the line. But I, as a person, am not willing to accept the fact that this guy had one of the cops' guns just because they say so.
Right. Well, that's true, too.
Because they can say that anytime they want to get off, it's the fucking throwdown principle. All you got to do is carry around a little Jennings 32, and every time you want to shoot someone, just throw it on the ground and say they had it, and you get off.
A Jennings 32, really? That'd be
or whatever,
pretty
25.
expensive gun since it didn't exist.
25.
Well, no, but, I mean, you're right. I mean, it's like that the DHS guy. He's got a gun. He's got a gun. Well, some people actually have guns. I mean,
he's got a C camp 32. No,
I'm not throwing it. It's expensive.
That's an expensive one. Yeah. No, I'm with you, dude. I have a problem with tactics too. I mean, There's no way that the little crackhead, 2 cops messing with her would look like 10 minutes to put cuffs on the crackhead, and then they got it would look like 10 minutes of this guy. They're wrestling this guy. The taser's going off.
Come on,
It's
do that
just
job
crazy, man.
before you can really,
I could never do that job, and I give them all the credit in the world. But at some point, they gotta rethink tactics when stuff like that happens.
You went to force on force at with Jaeger, right? So could you imagine someone coming in and doing like after action like review of all the actions that you took during those critical moments, quarter second decisions and stuff, right?
No, how this came to my attention. A friend of mine said how disgusting it was that they shot an unarmed guy. I watched the video and I tried to, in my best way of just saying, look, that's a video, that's an angle. We don't know. He could have went for the gun. Let's not judge it. Don't jump to conclusions. Give everything time. We'll figure out later what happened. Those are the facts. Like, we don't know what happened.
In that force-on-force class, DB chose the shit himself and vomit on them every time, so he didn't really learn a whole lot.
Does LA do they have the body cameras?
Not sure.
Does anybody know?
It didn't look like anyone in the video was wearing them, but I would imagine they have dash cams for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
Here's another huge problem I had in that video. I just remembered. So after the shooter cop, doesn't get whisked away into an ambulance or another car, and doesn't, he goes around and is still got an adrenaline dump, probably like you can't imagine, he's still on like barrier, like perimeter, like why is he still there? There were so many problems with that video, and I know, we're second guessing it. I don't have law enforcement experience.
It's a bigger issue if the guy that does the shooting leaves the scene. That's a big no.
But would you really put him in like he's like backing people up, like? And controlling the perimeter, like after he just shot somebody, it doesn't make sense.
In a good state of mind, I don't mind him continuing to do his job if he's still competent. But I mean,
there were so many cops on the scene; it wasn't necessary, in my opinion, because there were so many cops there. He didn't need to do it. I mean, someone else could have done it. There were guys just standing around, like scratching their head, and there was some guy walking around with the police tape. It was just mind-boggling to me that this guy just dumped 6 shots. He just dumped six
standing around, but he's getting business done, man.
Yeah,
I get it, dude. I mean, it was just inflammatory, too, because it could have made the situation worse, because the guy who was filming it is like, yeah, you just shot him, motherfucker. You just shot him. Like, you fucking coward. I mean, it was just bizarre, dude.
It would make more sense if they just sat him down in a car or but, he can't leave the scene, because leaving the scene gives him the opportunity with the evidence to change his...
No, I don't think he's saying leaving the scene, but at least getting debriefed over the situation. I mean, where's the patrol sergeant asking him why the hell he just shot somebody? I mean, something, But and I agree, he shouldn't be over there with the hecklers on an adrenaline rush like that.
Yeah, with them getting in his face. He was pretty professional, but still, just saw him shoot somebody. And they're screaming it. It was just bad. It was bad.
And bystanders very well could have been friends. I mean, that situation. See, that's what the situation he's describing right there. That one has the potential to really get out of control.
Yeah, that's
especially
like fueling the fire instead of not fueling the fire. Yeah, exactly.
That is kind of his job, though. I mean, you're saying that is a dangerous situation for him to put himself in, because he could have had friends. That guy could have had friends in the crowd that could have started.
Exactly.
But that's kind of his job as a police officer, to be in dangerous situations.
Right.
Yeah, but that's what everybody else should be doing. Everybody else, I mean, he's at that point right there. He's a part of an active investigation.
Exactly.
He shouldn't be over there in patrol.
Just because his job description says he should have to deal with it doesn't mean that there's no discretion.
And in his defense, you are kind of taught that if you are in a situation like that where something drastic happens, you are to continue to perform your duties in a what they call it, a competent.
So even if he was right, his supervisor should have been, look, you're aggravating that crowd. That's not helping anything. Go over there. Go over to the other side, or go sit over there or something. Another thing that could have been solved by sitting there.
Actually,
I'm solving a lot of stuff all day today.
All right, we solved that issue. Still got anything else we need to clear up?
Anything else we can inflammatory subject.
I noticed how he happened to invite Yankee and Dave into this chat, so then both Daves into this chat, trying to get your ratings up.
That just worked out that way. That was
Like,
awesome.
oh, we're just gonna, I don't know, we'll talk about politics. Yeah, let's do that.
I just want to say that Stone Guy made the statement earlier of calling a spade, and then immediately said, "Let's go down a dark alley." So I want to say that he's obviously a racist.
Okay, here's the actual protocol. At the scene and immediately following a police, hold on, officer-involved shooting guidelines. 4.1, immediately after an officer-involved shooting or other critical incident, involved personnel should be provided physical and psychological first aid, e.g. emotional support, reassurance to involved personnel, assignment of a companion officer to any officer who is directly involved in a shooting, and separated from other pending investigative procedures. See, I knew it wasn't right. You have to be separated from any other procedure right away because that's...
Well, that's investigative procedures. That means he's not in any way allowed to tamper with the body, the evidence, the firearm that was used to shoot the guy.
Right, because he's a part of the investigation. This
They
report,
often will just tell you go over and do crowd control or something like that until...
This report should be focused on calming physical and emotional stress and restoring and or reinforcing the officer's sense of safety. And then there's 4.11, after providing needed public safety information, officers who fired a weapon or were directly involved in a critical incident should be encouraged to step immediately away from the scene to be transported to a safe and supportive environment by a trusted peer or supervisor.
Yeah, which means until he has that's like until an investigator is on the scene, he's not even supposed to leave. That has to be done by someone that has determined that it is okay for him to leave, like a supervisor, etc. He just can't get in his car and leave.
Right. Yeah, but he's not.
So I
supposed to
didn't
be
mean that, but I didn't know he should go behind the police tape and get into people, and then have people getting into his face after he just did, he just either saved someone's life, took a life, whatever. He's got to be under emotional stress, an adrenaline dump, and these guys are yelling at him, "You fucking coward, you motherfucker!" Like, put down the gun. Like, they're challenging him to a fight. They're in his fucking face. It looks horrible. God, it just looked like a nightmare. I mean,
but here's the thing, though.
God
he
bless
handled
him.
himself in a professional manner right afterwards. So, from a professional standpoint and the way they're trained, if he goes into court, the evidence that he presented that he created there by acting in a professional and calm manner right afterwards is going to be an indication of his state before and during the incident too. So that works in his favor.
All right, let's get back to net neutrality, guys. I'm just kidding. Please don't talk about it. XM. No, I'm just fucking. Stone guy.
Are we allowed to talk about net neutrality anymore? I'm pretty sure that's.
I did want to touch on that net neutrality. It seems like a lot of people have passed over it and hadn't gotten much attention, but I think it's pretty serious, man. I mean, I think it's. I mean, you think of was it North Korea or China? Which one's?
That's not net neutrality.
Which one has freer
They're all
internet than us?
They're all the same, dude. They're all the
Best
same.
political
They're all the same, Stone guy. They're all the same.
Kim Jong-il with that net neutrality.
Yeah.
Here's the greatest fact today. Here's the greatest
Stone,
fact.
to answer your question, it was China the one that was encouraging it.
I just can't even troll chats anymore, dude.
I
It's crazy.
was thinking out loud. I think it was China that basically has control over what their populace is able to research on the internet.
A lot of them. That's state-controlled media.
Like,
a large percentage of even free
controlled media that's here.
Even South Korea has highly regulated internet, very regulated.
Like, you can't, if you Google Tiananmen Square, it won't pop up.
That's not got anything to do with net neutrality. It's two totally different things.
Yeah, but see, I think you're wrong. I think I understand the concept of net neutrality.
You're talking about control of media.
Which is what the FCC commissioner has been warning everybody is tucked away in net neutrality.
No, actually, the other way around is closer to state-controlled media, because when you start allowing the providers to control what you can and can't see, that's closer to state-controlled media than net neutrality is if you actually read the net neutrality law.
That is what the FCC commissioner has been warning everybody is tucked away in the law that no one's allowed to read about net neutrality. He's saying that it's a bunch of hidden stuff, it's taxes, it's fees, it's government control, it's lower.
This guy is a Democrat, right? Isn't that guy a Democrat too? So it's not even political. Like, he's not a Republican guy. He's a Democrat, right?
Well,
The
there's a
FCC
couple of
commissioner.
them.
They were saying like he was, well, the commissioner that was against it and was saying, "Wow, this is too much. Like there's too much stuff in here," and they made a point to say, "Well, even this guy was a Democrat. It's not like he's not trying to be anti-Obama because Obama was for it."
Right.
He was just
No, he
scared
was
of it.
saying it's going to be bad for business, bad against Constitution, bad against capitalism, bad against. I mean, he was trying for weeks to say, man, this is a much bigger monster. Don't trust it. This is huge. This is stupid. I mean, he tried and tried and tried. Nobody wanted to hear
You gotta
it.
pass it to find out what's in it. You gotta pass it first, then we find out what's in it.
Well, that's how government works.
That's how I wipe my ass. You know what I mean? I gotta wipe my ass first, and then look at the toilet paper, and see what's in it. You know what I mean? I don't know. Could be. I don't know what I'm talking about.
But I think the greatest tragedy today is I was watching the news, and they came on to report the Harrison Ford wreck, and the guy that was from the FCC, the fireman or whatever he was that was doing the initial report, he's like, the plane has gone down. The plane was the craft was piloted by a solo occupant, and he didn't pause and look at the camera and go, "Yeah, Han Solo," which he could have. And I was like, that's just the biggest missed moment on television in a long time.
That is crazy.
But I also wonder, why is it a rich guy crashing his toy plane national news? It's all over all the networks right now.
No, because but realistically,
Because the movie's coming out.
I think the whole net neutrality thing is just like David said. I think while on the surface, we all know what it means on the surface, but I think the underlying or the ultimate goal is just that. That's going to be government control over what we're allowed to see, what we're allowed to research, the speed. Even they're going to be able to control the speed at which our servers process, or bandwidth. Like Netflix is going to have to,
unless there's something hidden in it that no one knows about yet. Because,
only 200 pages.
Yeah, because the actual premise of net neutrality is saying that you can't do all the things you're saying. You can't limit access to certain aspects. You can't limit speeds based on professionalism or professional connections or popularity, which means that internets can't say, like say if I'm Comcast and I'm owned by a big Democratic supporter and I decide, hey, anytime someone Googles something pro-gun control, I want them to have access to it. Every time someone Googles something Second Amendment, they ain't going to get nothing. So that's what it's supposed to do. We'll see if it's what it does or not when we read the bill. But
well,
what about this green chip
what
stuff?
about the concerns as far as, since they can regulate the internet like a public utility, going off of that, why couldn't they simply regulate, certain websites they could just deem obscene or something?
Are you aware of how they regulate public utilities? They don't take any active control in the utility. All they do is step in when utilities decide, say, hey, we're only going to run good lines to the good neighborhoods and not to the middle-class neighborhoods. They step in and go, nope, you've got to provide adequate service to all constituencies within the area that you service. They don't actually get involved in producing the electricity or profiting off the electricity, etc. They just have means to enforce fair treatment. So,
yeah, and thus they stifle innovation and capitalism.
There's no evidence of stifling innovation. People invent.
Yeah, if you ignore it, then there's no evidence. Of course, they're not going to champion the fact that they're stifling innovation.
Well, tell me how they're stifling innovation. I'll listen.
In what facet?
No, you brought it up, not me.
Well, you're the one that threw an open-asked question out there, so
you
be
brought it
more
up.
specific, and I can give you an answer.
How is net neutrality?
Plastic bullets.
How is net neutrality stifling innovation?
Besides the fact that they're throttling free speech or speed of internet?
It doesn't do that. Unless they've added something that.
What are you reading? What are you reading? Here it is, right here. An FCC commissioner strongly opposed the agency's new net neutrality. Hold on. An FCC commissioner strongly opposed the agency's new net neutrality proposal. Partnered with the FEC commissioner Monday to warn that new internet regulations could influence political speech online.
And he said that's a possibility.
Saying it right there. Regulated internet services providers as public utilities, which, among other things, mandate companies comply with government standards for speed and price.
How many FCC commissioners are there?
A few, but how many? How many? How many do you have to hear warnings from before you consider it valid?
I'm saying it was a good idea. So if you're going to give weight to the one guy that says it's a bad, you have to give equal weight to the FCC commissioners based on their title that think it's a good idea, unless you've got other substance evidence.
What is this? The fairness doctrine?
No, I'm just saying unless you've got other substance evidence other than an appeal to authority by saying he's an FCC commissioner, you have to give the same appeal to authority to FCC commissioners that think it's an awesome idea.
Okay, well then let's look at some liberal news like USA News, Sneaky, Stealthy, and Serpentine. The Obama administration's forced the FCC hand to an awful new net neutrality rules. Imagine you're a citizen of a medieval town in which you find your local rules to be troublesome. So you say to yourself, someone really needs to do something about it. Wait a minute, I've got an idea. I'll open the gates and let in the Mongols. That'll really shake things up. This is USA Today. I don't know what you're reading, but for crying out loud, there's a lot of
I'm reading is substance information that I can find on the proposed net neutrality orders. I'm not reading people's opinions of what it could be or what it might be or what the negative aspects of it might be. I'm reading what they say that the law is meaning to achieve.
The FCC rule is the regulatory version of Obamacare. The FCC had to vote for it to find out what's in it. The 317 pages.
Wait.
Did you read?
That's such a lie that they use all the time. Senators are never required to vote on something they haven't seen. They are provided with everything they vote on. If they choose to vote on it to see what's in it, they choose to do it. They don't have to vote until they've read it. And they are given the opportunity to read it. All senators are provided with the information upon which they're voting in a timely manner before they vote.
Really?
Yes, they are.
Okay. So explain to me how often a 2,000-page bill or even a 1,000-page bill passes and is voted on 24 hours after presentation.
I'm not saying that they don't do it, but I'm saying that they have to is a fallacy. They don't
have to. They get the legislation. They'll have a team of people maybe read it and give them, the gist of what the bill's about.
For them. Yes. So.
Okay, so why won't they release it for weeks if it's already been voted on?
If it's already been voted on, then it's a public record.
Okay, but it's not going to be released for weeks. So how does that work?
Well, you're confusing the public record with the act, what they call it, No, it's like a press release thing. The press release thing is scheduled and goes out at a certain time. Public record is available immediately once it hits the archives.
Okay. Investigative journalists at the Wall Street Journal reported that the White House ran an unusual secretive effort to force the FCC's action. Just as Obama used executive action in the unprecedented fashion on immigration, so too has he now set on precedent by bullying an independent regulatory body into following political orders. Compromise of regulatory independence, secretiveness, unintended consequences.
That's got nothing to do with the actual legislation. That's talking about his behavior. That doesn't mean they can't walk right now to the National Archives in Washington and read what these people just voted on.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's not even what's at debate here. You asked a question, I'm trying to answer it. In its dissenting statement, FCC Commissioner says that the FCC move gives it the power to micromanage virtually every aspect of how the internet works. It allows the government to determine whether rates are lawful, which ultimately gives it the power to set rates. It will also, it will allow the government to slap the universal service fee that you now pay on your cell phone bill onto your broadband bill. Also, will reduce. Theoretic anyway, that the internet will be substantially slowed.
Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence of that?
What do you mean?
That the internet will be substantially slowed. I want to see the evidence that, because the whole principle of that was if we don't get to give extra bandwidth to the websites we believe in, then the internet's going to fall apart. I think it was Wozniak that came on the news the other day and said that was the most ridiculous fucking thing he'd ever heard in his life. And I kind of believe Wozniak when he talks about the internet, because I think he's got a little bit of smarts when it comes to that stuff. So.
Yeah, there it is. FCC is demanding rules prohibiting.
No, you're reading a blog and you're reading a statement of intent. You're not actually reading the actual bill. So.
Well, you just cited Was
I just said that the 307. Hold on. See, this is what pisses me off about you
Not voting
sometimes.
that as part of the bill.
I just said that the 317-page bill has not been released. So you're telling me that I'm not reading the bill and you don't want to hear what I have to say. So then this conversation, this conversation is over until the bill comes out. You cannot rely on the situation. No, because if you're not going to listen to the FCC, if you're not going to listen to the FCC commissioner who's tried for weeks, then this conversation's over until the bill comes out. That's it. That's it, Dave.
One
Seriously.
FCC commissioner. One.
No, not one. Not one. Not one. Just because you're not going to read it and just because you're not going to pay attention until the bill comes out, that means that this conversation is over until the bill comes out and we can argue about it then.
The bill's already available to the press and everybody.
All right, so send me the link to the 317-page bill. Have you read it? Have you read it? Have you read it? Have you seen the proof? Tell me about the proof. Tell me where it says in the bill that everything's going to be okay. You can't do it. And when I use your argument against you, you fail.
No, actually,
absolutely. No, you didn't. So show me the bill. Show me the bill. Where's the link? 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 Hey, Dave, where's the link?
Wow.
Where's the link? You don't have one. You don't have one. So you failed, right? Stop being an asshole.
Could you be a little more childish in the way you're debating this?
Stop being an asshole. You're not debating. You're being a moron. Show me. You just asked me to read the bill, and I told you it hasn't been released.
Your argument because you couldn't even keep your conspiracy-ness to,
It's not a conspiracy, you moron. It's not a conspiracy, you moron. Dude, you are such. Dude, you're an intellectual infantile.
You have to start calling names and just trying
to start calling names. Dude, you're an idiot.
Talking continuously because you can't listen.
You're an idiot. Do you understand that? Does that ever cross your mind? You're sitting here arguing a bill that no one can read because it's secret, and you're calling it conspiracy.
What I said is this was the intended statement of the legislation, and if it does this, awesome. And we will see when we see the legislation.
Yeah, so we have to wait until we see it. And you justified it, so we'll just wait until the bill comes out and debate it then, right?
You haven't seen it, yet you're already telling us all these horrible things that are hidden in it when you haven't even seen it.
I'm not the one saying these things, Dave. This is what the FCC commissioners are saying, and that's what they're warning about. And see, you have a problem with the warning because you're calling it conspiracy theory because you think government's here to protect you.
Taking it as gospel because it suits your desires.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't, asshole. I'm telling you to pay attention to the warning.
It's your preconceived notion, so you're accepting it.
Yeah, okay. Why is that my preconceived notion, idiot? Because government has a history of doing horrible things. This administration, all right, let's look at Obamacare real quick. What was Obamacare built on? The ignorance of the American people, and it was unjustly and horrible. And let me guess, Obamacare was great, right? Obamacare was great. If Obamacare was great, then great. Net neutrality is awesome. Well done.
Completely wrong.
Well done.
If you look at approval ratings on Obamacare right now, they're very high. So most people are very satisfied.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Guess what? Over 50% of the population is reliant on government subsidies. Of course it's going to be high. Welcome. God, do you read anything?
That's crap.
Do you read anything?
You're misusing statistics again.
No, okay.
Half the people are on welfare. No.
No, did I say that? Thank you for taking my words out of context.
What are they benefiting from Obamacare? How's 50% of the population benefiting from government assistance regarding to Obamacare?
Dude, do you read anything? Seriously?
Yes, I do. I don't actually, and I read things
besides CNN. Besides CNN, what do you read?
Paranoid blogs.
Besides CNN, what do you read?
Blogs and base my decisions on paranoid blogs. I don't read American. I don't watch like what's his name, Alex Jones, and think that that's actual.
Do you want to know something, buddy?
Do you want to know what I read? Tell me, I'd want to know. But
do you want to know what I read? I read peer-reviewed journals.
Really? What peer review did you read of the net neutrality law?
None, because guess what? It's a 317-page bill that hasn't been released.
Then why don't you wait until you've actually seen a peer
review? Hey, here's a question. Why don't you wait until it comes out? Why don't you wait until it comes out?
Nefarious.
Why don't you wait until it comes out? No, it's not. You're sitting here flapping your gums about shit you don't know.
Stuff, isn't it? I will wait.
You are such a moron. It's crazy how moronic you are.
Well, because I'm not insane and I don't trust my fellow man to run their own government like you.
Stone Guy always runs an interesting chat.
I don't think that. I don't think that only my mindset is the right one, and anybody else that doesn't do the way I
Dude, have you ever watched yourself talk?
Yeah, you think exactly that, Yankee.
Yeah, but
That's your
you can't say that
forte.
right now. Can't
That's
say
your
that right now.
forte.
But
That is your forte.
that's a character I play on the internet.
Well, you're playing it really well.
Good, because that's my job. But here's the thing. I'm not sitting here saying that, oh, there's all this nefarious stuff in it. I said, let's see. Let's wait. We'll see what's in it, and then we'll see.
No,
Is
you
it
didn't.
nefarious
You
or is it
said
Come on. How
specifically.
can you
said that
seriously
it was,
claim that that's
you
a
said it
way
was
to
fine.
run,
That's not what it
to run
was.
things?
What'd you
To
say?
wait until it is enacted to know what you're
No,
voting
it's
on.
already enacted, and if you have we could have went.
Yeah,
we could have
but
right
the way
now.
you're saying it, it seems like you're down with that. Like, okay,
He is
well,
down
let's
with
just
it.
be happy with it.
Here's the thing. We live in a republic. I elected representatives
When?
that I trust.
And I disagree with that.
Well, that's great, but I don't care what you disagree with.
Okay, well then let me prove it to you.
Well, we'll be quiet for a second. I elect representatives that I send to my state legislature and to my federal legislature that I feel will represent my opinions and that I think are reasonably intelligent people. And then when they get up there, it's their job to read something and vote on it. And then after they do that, it's my job, if I don't have the opportunity to read it and to tell them whether I want them to vote on it or not beforehand, it's my job afterward to evaluate what they've done and say, did you do the right thing or did you do the wrong thing? And then hold them accountable for it. So right now, I'm giving my fellow man who runs this government of the people the benefit of the doubt that I don't believe that they're out to do something nefarious to me as far as the internet's concerned. And if they are doing something nefarious, I will notice that, and I will vote them out of office.
It's naive.
No, it's not, I don't think it's naive. I like to have a little bit of faith in my fellow
Anything that
person.
has that much bureaucracy involved in it that is run efficiently and well, you're just saying, as much faith as I have in everything going well in the future that you think I'm naive about, you have with government somehow correcting all their flaws and running.
No, I believe in it. I believe in checks and balances.
He just said that Article 4, Section 4 is intact.
I believe.
And he doesn't believe what I say when, guys like Martin Gillens, professor of politics at Princeton University, or Benjamin Fraze, professor at Northwestern University of
This whole, I mean, no offense, but the whole chemtrail mentality gets boring.
Dude, they couldn't even build a website.
But
we're talking about the government that had 3 years to build a healthcare website. They couldn't even do that. They made
Canadians couldn't do that.
No, 3 people made a decision.
They were tasked with doing it, and they made poor decisions. So it doesn't matter who actually did it. They were tasked with doing it, and they didn't succeed.
And no one said that they do everything technically perfect, but
3 people made a decision based on telephone laws based on the 30s in this right here, dude. So you can't even.
Well, Yankee will usually say, I'll put words in your mouth. You'll tell us that the government, you can elect the people if you don't like what they're doing. Where with the capitalist side of the corporation side, you can't. And I suggest that this country was built on the corporations and money and people with spirit building stuff, and the government hasn't done nothing but tether that.
I would argue with you on that, because what were the founding fathers' opinions of moneyed corporations?
I hear you, and I don't disagree necessarily with every aspect of what you're saying there. I'm just saying that we got to the point where we are today with those corporations being held in check with us, the people, and our tether of spending where we want to spend it, and holding them accountable to some extent, with one of the tools being the federal government. But I think we've seen nothing but failures almost exclusively on the federal government side of running things. There's very few things, minus the forests and some things like that, and some people even.
I think we've seen some massive failures on the side of the federal government, but I don't think it's majority failures. I think it's majority successes.
I'll acknowledge there's failures on the other side too, but I just don't think that we should just say, okay, the internet is one thing that we had. Al Gore gave it to us and said, you can run with this and run around free with, do what you want. And I
haven't heard you thank you for that.
I don't think it's worth the leap of faith to think the government's somehow going to figure out how to run this perfectly.
No, I don't think the government's going to figure out how to run it perfectly at all. They're going to do like they do the utilities. The government doesn't run the lines. The government doesn't manage the system. The government doesn't staff the generators. The government doesn't do any of that. And I don't think they'll do that with the internet either, unless, like I said, unless there is something nefarious in this bill that we haven't been told about.
Well, there's 317 pages. I can't imagine there's something nefarious, especially considering Obamacare, and especially considering that just months prior, Obama was given kill switch capabilities by the Senate.
Yankee, can I put it? Can I say it like this? Then here's the way I feel.
The booklet I just got to put new headers on my Jeep is 112 pages long, so that's not that long for a bit.
So let me put it this way: if I'm going to use the analogy of PBS, which is publicly funded or supported television, we're all familiar with PBS, right? If PBS was like, if you somehow run a parallel to the internet, I don't want the internet to be PBS. PBS is great for what it is, and I agree with you. For some people, it's necessary. If you can't afford, daycare after school, maybe PBS and your grandma is awesome because it teaches your kids, and that's an excellent thing that project happens to work. But we would have very lame television if PBS was responsible for everything we want to see. We wouldn't have HBO. We wouldn't have crazy cartoons and stuff. There's lots of stuff we get from just people being crazy and doing their thing. And I'm saying that government control doesn't necessarily do anything, but having that tether on it.
See, here's the thing.
Results in bland, boring, middle of the road.
Here's the thing. Net neutrality, which is in many other countries, which produce lots of positive things on the internet still, even though they have.
You're never going to win with judging other countries. We're better than all those countries, and we're different than all those countries.
Like Switzerland, lots of European countries, etc., have it and are being praised for the way they do it. But
they're all communists, though. Who cares what?
And it's all slow too.
They are not communists. But here's the thing: if net neutrality does what you're saying, if it gives the government control over production, management, etc., of the internet, then yes, it's a negative thing. But net neutrality doesn't do that.
Yeah, well then why is everybody reporting that it does?
Let me finish a sentence. If they put something in the law that does do that, then yep, you'll see my support completely go away, and I will be like, this law needs to go. But if it does what net neutrality is actually meant to do, which just puts a net there that says the companies that are producing, managing, and and running the internet and the internet providers can't do illegal, or not illegal, but basically immoral things or limiting things. Like they can't say, like if Comcast decided tomorrow, like I said earlier, we're anti-gun, so we're only going to allow people to see stuff that's anti-gun. We're not going to allow them to see stuff that's pro-gun. Net neutrality, the government wouldn't be making that decision. The government would just be stepping in and saying, no, you can't censor. We have this law that says if you're providing internet service, you have to provide equal service to all.
So
yeah, and unfortunately, you're not looking at the
stepping the
grand scheme of
jackboot
that.
of government onto their necks when you could just as easily put your faith in the regular people that are going to see that disgusting crap, either not watch it or do something to put a fence around it.
How do you as a person know what you're not seeing?
Well, because I have done a lot of research on this, and I've looked at the warnings
On
and
the internet. Yeah.
No, hold on.
Why
Here's
are you
the
so
thing,
afraid, Yankee, that
Yeah.
we can't judge for ourselves and deal with stuff
No.
ourselves? Why do we need
He doesn't want to hear what I have to say. You know what? Here's the thing. Because here's the thing, David. Can I just finish a sentence? Look, Title II. Have you read it?
I'm not here to discuss constitutionalism with you right now.
No, Title II has nothing to do with the frickin' Constitution.
Anything of that. I'm not discussing. We're discussing.
You can finish a sentence, but I can't finish a sentence. That's interesting.
I'm not going down this.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Yankee Marshall. No one can interrupt. No one can have a conversation with him because what he says is
I'm
right.
just not going down this anti-government rabbit hole.
It's
with
not
you.
an
We're discussing
here's
neutrality.
all right, ladies and gentlemen, since he doesn't want to listen, I'll go ahead and tell you. Title II has nothing to do with the Constitution. Title II was written a long time ago. It has to do with the with the FCC. And what Title II does, and what this FCC situation is going to do, blocks and it stops, quote unquote, throttling, but also trafficking. Yankee or Dave is right in the idea that it's equality. But see, he's not looking at it the other way. He's not looking at it the right way, as most people like us who are doing content creation.
No, most people are pro net neutrality.
Are doing
majority of people.
FCC votes for net neutrality, which is basically a ban on paid fast lanes. So if you want really, really fast internet and have the ability to pay for it, guess what? You're not going to be able to do that via Title II. But he doesn't want to look at that, and he wants to say that it's a good thing because everybody gets PBS, as G-Webs was talking about. So since everybody's on the same page now, Has nothing to do with short of the fact that we are literally throttling liberty, in my opinion, information, weaponized information exchange. But he doesn't want to look at that because that's constitutional, whatever. So obviously he doesn't like constitutional, whatever. But look up Title II. I think that would be really interesting.
And Title II, was it declared constitutional? Was it declared constitutional?
I don't
yes,
care.
It was.
I don't
it was
care.
challenged several times and was declared constitutional.
I don't care.
So,
I'm telling you. Title II. I'm telling you right now. It's a ban on fast lanes for internet. That's been reported over and over and over on what they have released. You haven't read it. You've demonstrated it numerous times, and you're sitting here arguing as though it's a conspiracy.
There absolutely is
so thank you for showing the public how absolutely moronic you can be.
Absolutely wrong. Where you're totally misinformed and absolutely wrong.
Okay, well then do me a favor. I want you to write up a press release and tell USA Today, CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, and all these other ones. Go ahead and tell them that they're all misinformed, and go ahead and send that to the president and also the FCC, since they're the one who released that document. Thank you.
Okay, now that you're done, I hope you're done.
Yeah, well, I don't know. If I'm going to do it your way, I'm just going to go ahead and interrupt you, too. So since no one else can talk except for you, I'm not going to pander and play to your game. I'm just going to go ahead and be as immature as you are. However you want to do that.
I don't care. Talk to your horse.
Yeah, I'll do it all day long. You're going to be an asshole to everybody on the panel. I'll be an asshole to you, since nobody.
I don't think I'm being an asshole to anybody on the panel. You're the one who calls names and everything else, and shoving your face up in your camera. I mean, you're the one that's getting all.
Like that? Ooh! I'll do it all day, dude. I don't care. I don't give a shit. I'll play your childish game. I don't care.
I'm sitting here eating some carrots and surfing Instagram. I'm not worked up at all.
Yeah, no doubt. You should be reading, is what you should be doing, as demonstrated by the last 15 minutes or so.
No, I'm sorry, I'm not educated to your level of education.
Yeah, well, go to school.
I'm not as up on my Alex Jones as you. But
Jones.
Here's the thing. In no way does net neutrality stop paying for higher access utilities or for paying for fast-track internet. You can pay for any of that you want to.
I thought you just said everybody was going to be equal. That's weird. Now your story contradicts itself. Well, that's interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, the Yankee Marshal. Subscribe today.
If the thing says that everybody's got to build bicycles with training wheels, they're not going to build.
No. What it says
10
is,
speeds. It's
going to affect change by. No, G-Webs, listen. What it says is, it doesn't in any way say that you cannot pay. Like I pay for Hulu. And I can pay for Hulu service and get different service than someone who doesn't pay for it. What it states is the internet providers can't decide randomly.
Dude, seriously, you are so fixated on that detail. I don't care. I'll cede any detail you want, because what we're talking about, the reason I think that a lot of us are so pissed about this is because this is the thing that allowed them to just say in front of everybody, we now own this and we're going to control it. And everybody said, okay, and we're bickering about the details.
I didn't see anybody.
If it was the perfect law, I wouldn't want the damn law, because I don't want another law. I don't care if it's good or bad law. I don't want law.
Well, I didn't see anybody saying that we now own this and we're going to control it.
Oh, of course not, because you're blinded by the minutia of the detail, when it's really the broad stroke that we're concerned about. Who cares if they didn't say it today? They're going to say it tomorrow. Why in the hell would you not think that the government isn't going to take more once you've given them anything?
Don't get into slippery slope arguments, because slippery slope arguments are winning or losing arguments.
Come on.
No, it isn't history. There is no history that shows that the
neutrality is a bad thing. I'm pretty sure all of them got bigger from when they started.
You're echoing bad. Plug your.
Hold on.
Not even from just a slippery slope argument, but just like he's saying, the government could effectively say, well, here is this thing.
Is that better?
There. We can't put our finger on it, and we're now going to regulate it because we can.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
But see, I haven't seen anybody saying the things you're saying, and I haven't seen any indication of the law. Saying what you're saying. Now, like I said, if someone comes to me anymore and says, hey, this part of the law says the government gets to decide what we see and what we don't see.
Okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, somebody that he knows or somebody on his news has to tell him before he'll accept the reality of it.
Well, look,
It can't be anybody from the FCC, and it's got to be somebody from the Obama. As soon as the Obama administration tells Dave or the Yankee that's what it is, then he'll believe it. So
even if that's not in there, I think the biggest thing, like you said, is just the fact that the government just sort of came in by fiat and said, we're going to regulate this.
No, they didn't just come in by fiat, because there has been a large portion of the population that's been calling for it for a long time.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
No,
there
look
has been an
at the
engineered
poll
portion
on
of some subset of the portion of the community that has been manipulated into yelling it because they're manipulating and yelling anything they want. Bullshit. Everybody out here said, oh, the internet's awesome. I sure wish government would regulate the shit out of it and tax it.
Yes, because every time government gets involved, it gets automatically better.
Yeah, that's what I thought about healthcare too. I mean, holy cow! But nobody was warning us about that.
Almost say it for healthcare because there's so many communists running around acting like it's a good thing. There are a lot of people who think healthcare is good, but I don't know anybody who thinks the government should regulate the internet.
Or everyone thinks that, or we all see this and we all see that. Here's the reality from the last Washington Post poll: 81% of Americans support net neutrality. So who are these all and everybody?
100%
I don't know.
of us don't agree with that
being
poll.
polled.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe 100% of you don't agree with that poll, but you can't sit here and say that it was just the government just did this. 81% of the population, which is the government.
Well, hold on a second, dude. We all know that 81% of the population polled in New York City may have a way different idea than 81% of the population that's polled in Ottawa. National pool my ass. Okay, so and let's I hear you guys arguing about the net neutrality. Hi, Dave, Yankee. You know what? I'm just gonna call you Yankee. We're YouTuber guys. So Yankee, how you doing? But let me just get one thing straight, because everybody who loves the Obamacare, I've been trying to actually get Obama insurance for the past 9 months because that's the only option I have for me and my family.
Oh, just
here in Illinois, I have not been able to get any insurance. My family and I, my children, my grandchildren, and my wife and I have been without insurance now for 9 months. I've been paying for my own medication out of pocket. Okay, I have not seen my doctor. I'm way past it. But guess what? I'm supposed to be dealing with Obamacare. But every time we go to sign up or try and deal with it, we get bumped. We get avoided. We haven't been able to do it for 9 months. So you're going to tell me that the government getting involved in the internet is going to make it better? I had insurance before 9 months ago, bro. You know what I'm saying? For my kids.
And there's lots of, and there are people that are worse off, and there's people that are better off. I personally have got the same insurance I had before Obamacare, which is good insurance. My sister now has insurance, and she never had good insurance before through Obamacare. My brother now has good insurance and never had good insurance before Obamacare, and the vast majority of people are satisfied with it. So
not here in Illinois, dude, and not here in the state.
Well, and that's the same thing in Alabama. Alabama, a lot of people are not satisfied with it.
But I'm a blue state where the president fucking comes from. Okay, so you'd think if anything we'd
from Hawaii.
Well, I'm in Illinois, so
I knew he looked Islander.
But let me, so you're trying to tell me that because middle class America, is okay, it's a good thing, right?
Well, no, that would be oversimplifying. That'd be kind of a glib statement. I mean, everything that I have seen so far, I have not seen.
Maybe you might need to expand your horizons from what you've seen.
There are people that get hurt from everything. Anytime you decide, hey, we're going to clean up downtown. It might be a good thing overall, but some people are going to get hurt by that.
For the greater good, right, Dave?
Yeah.
But I can't. I'm not going to say that simply because I did not. I actually probably, if my taxes went up a little bit, then I got hurt by it. So I didn't get affected positively.
No, I have no health insurance, dude. I pay everything out of pocket. If I need to go see a doctor, I got to pay out of pocket. So I'm saying, I don't want anybody's sympathy on it. I'll deal with it as I deal with it. But what I'm saying is you're expecting me to then trust the government to be okay, to regulate and deal with the internet and make it supposedly better.
Well, look at it this way, too. The government regulates your electricity, and we have one of the most stable electricity grids in the world.
That's strategic, though. That has.
So So I mean, we can't.
They could leave tomorrow, and they would do a better job
Tell
without
that,
them.
tell that to California, 15 years ago with Enron, when they were having rolling blackouts
Yeah,
because the
and when
government
they
knew what the fuck they were doing.
And they
right?
didn't do it. Then
So-
it wasn't regulation that was causing that. Remember, it was misuse. It was violations of the law by the corporate entity that caused that. When
And
everyone,
the
The law
government that
was
didn't
wrong,
enforce-
and they
no, it wasn't
exploited it.
because of the law.
They
No,
found the flaw in the law. We should be
Right.
thanking them.
no, they
Dave
didn't.
Christian is right. Our grid is vulnerable.
They
And
said,
wasn't it in 2009 that North Korea was about to blow up our grid and nobody knew anything about it? Yeah, I can see our government's doing a great job. Also, too, I'd also like to point out that Dave just said,
right
Dave
now?
just admitted that he was a fascist. So I would like to make that point abundantly clear.
What? What did he say?
I look at Yankee as a lot of things. Fascist isn't one of them.
Oh, I thought he called me a fat ass. I'm okay with fascist. I thought he called me a fat ass.
Yeah, he's been working out. He don't like to be called a fat ass at this point.
But the thing, I think the biggest difference between me and you, Mule, is you see the government, and I think I don't want to put words in your mouth, but just be thankful that's the only thing I put in your mouth if I do put words in it.
Yeah, it ain't big enough, buddy. You better come with something meatier.
But some people see the government as a separate thing. They see it as this entity that wants to control. I still hold on to the notion that the government is the people. And believe me, no, I know that sounds naive, and I know we need to fix some things, and I know we need to fix a lot of things, but
Oh my God!
here's the thing. If I go into the doctor and I've got a gangrene toe, they don't shoot me in the head. They cut off my toe. And right now, I think we've got to cut some toes off as far as the government is concerned.
Mule, he didn't read this study from Princeton and Northwestern. He didn't read. I guess CNN probably didn't roll that.
It's not peer reviewed.
Do what?
Princeton study is not peer reviewed.
The Princeton and Northwestern was not something that was peer reviewed. Okay.
Yeah, show me the peer review on that.
Okay.
Just
Whatever
link
makes you
it
happy,
on
buddy.
the side. Just link it right over here on the side.
It's actually by definition, so if it would help to have a vocabulary, so when you see that,
Definition of peer review, because I'll give you the definition of peer review if you want. Just
you
doing
go.
it themselves doesn't define it as peer review.
Do you know what a definition is?
Yeah, so I know what peer reviewed is too. So by
Okay.
them doing it doesn't make it by definition peer
Did
reviewed.
I say that the Princeton and Northwestern study was a peer-reviewed statement?
You did. If you didn't, I'm mistaken, and I'm sorry.
Yeah,
but
I didn't say that. No, but I was saying they wrote a study, and it was published by just about every mainstream media there was. So, and it illustrated the fact that this isn't about the people, that we live in an oligarchy by definition. So, do you know what oligarchy is?
Yes, I know what oligarchy is.
Huh?
Yes, we know. We all know what oligarchies are. We're all familiar with, ruling of the elite, etc.
Okay. Just making sure.
You guys agree there. Yankee hates rich people.
So what about green tips?
I don't hate rich people. I want to be a rich person. I just don't like rich people who use their money to influence things in their favor at the expense of people who aren't rich.
Use their money, period.
No, I don't like it when they use their influence to alter the law or avoid the law to where they're above the law. Like, I don't like when they write a law that says nobody can piss on the sidewalk unless you make more than $500,000 a year, then you can piss wherever you want.
So our government for the people who forced Obamacare onto everybody else but rendered themselves exempt, that's for the people. Okay.
So you're awful angry about Obamacare. If I agree that we should repeal Obamacare, would you agree on net neutrality?
No, I think that anything that's government regulated to that level is a bad idea. Anything government regulated to that level is a bad idea.
I'll agree that we get rid of Obamacare first and then net neutrality right after.
Because here's the thing, and this isn't conspiracy. This is just what it is.
You gonna come in here?
The power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, or reserved to the states respectively or to the people. That's the important part that I think is often forgot. It's called a constitutionally authorized function, and our government doesn't adhere to it.
I have no idea if this is working.
Hey, yeah, we just had Dan join us from Dan Jones Show.
Dan's pretty close to Dave.
Can you hear me, Dan?
Yeah, I can hear you. I see there's Texas Surplus. I haven't seen him in a
No,
hot
he has to
second.
get out. You can only come in if your name is Dave.
So,
Dave Jones.
The ratio of days is diminished.
Sound 22 MOU.
we're talking about net neutrality. I know this kind of affects you directly if you're still in that industry, but what do you think about net neutrality and government control of the internet?
Yeah, actually, I just did a podcast last week about that, net neutrality changing and stuff, so sorry, I'm like...
Are we on the air now with net neutrality?
How did net neutrality affect the M855 ban, really, is the question.
Okay.
All right. Because
net neutrality,
I think more people were fired up about the M855 ban than net neutrality.
we don't know anything about what the FCC's net neutrality is, though. We haven't seen the bill.
chemtrails have picked up.
Net neutrality in itself is a very positive idea. That doesn't mean that they can distort it into something very negative, but...
I'm not saying it's going to be bad. I'm just saying we don't know exactly what they have in mind at the
Well,
moment.
let's just talk in generalities. Does government control generally offer a positive or negative effect?
This mule yelling at his dog, what's he doing?
I got him.
I haven't been in one of these in a while, so forgive my ignorance. This is all completely different from...
So, in general, does government control offer a positive or negative effect to private business?
Negative, absolutely.
So net neutrality, is it a positive or negative thing for private business?
I say negative. I say it's a way for the government to get their foot in the door on yet another thing that has historically been private. This is a way for them to generate more money. It's all money for them.
Without getting into too much disclosure and stuff, but like like some of this stuff, I don't know. Like I'm trying to like figure out how to word this without like giving too much away. But
you wrote the bill?
No.
Then tell us what's in it if you wrote it. Damn it.
No, I think that on one table it's good because the companies who are currently in charge of the internet aren't exactly doing themselves favors. They're not showing us that they can like do it good in the sense of like Comcast and the Netflix fast lanes and throttling and the infrastructure being run poorly. On the other side, I want to keep a free and open internet in the sense of like I should be able to make YouTube videos about how much I hate Hillary Clinton or whatever. I'm just saying, but
that's just mean-spirited.
She's kind of
you have mother issues.
Whatever.
What do you got against cankles? You don't like cankles.
I digress. She's got a snook. That's what it is.
She's a little frigid. Yeah.
South Park reference. But yeah, I think that as long as I'm allowed to still have that open and free anonymous speech on the internet, I'm all about it. When have I ever trusted the government, FCC? I don't know, man. I'm sure it'll be fine at first. They're just greasing palms though. And this whole Title II net neutrality thing is just greasing palms for that merger that a lot of people don't want to have happen.
Right, and then mix it in with the fact that the Senate gave Obama the kill switch. I mean, it's like, hello?
Yeah.
You can see that coming. That's called foreshadowing. And
yeah, it's definitely got some sketch to it.
Well, like I said, and I haven't seen the sketch yet. We'll see when we see the sketch. But here's the thing. Like, you have a First Amendment right to free speech. And if you start having free speech and someone imposes upon that, like your government municipality imposes upon that, your state sheriff comes and goes, no, you won't have free speech in my town. Nobody gets upset when the government comes in and goes, nope, we got laws about free speech. We're imposing the right that he has a right to free speech. No one gets upset about that. But
sometimes it's a
bad thing in regards to the internet. It's a bad thing.
But hold on a second. The government hasn't. Sorry about this, but the government hasn't been the one imposing those free speech zones. It's the government imposing them. Okay, the government's the one that imposes these free speech zones. Now, wait a second, Dave. I gave you, I've been quiet, and you all know that I'm not very good at it. Okay?
Yankee Dave.
Sorry. Wait a minute, Yankee. But
it's my name.
But
It's
no,
weird.
but seriously, the government's the one imposing these free speech zones. To try and say that a local sheriff did that, that's ludicrous. Whereas you see it happening from the federal government. I mean, you saw it. There's
I'm not saying free
3 or
speech
4.
zones. I'm saying like if you're denied your free speech, like say.
And what do you think you're being denied?
No, I'm just saying, like, say if my worker fired me, like, say if my employer fired me because, hey, I didn't like something you said, and I'm like, I have a right to free speech, you know, blah blah blah. And then if the government steps in and goes, nope, he does have a right to free speech.
But the government doesn't step in usually there. What the government steps in is to limit your free speech. You can't speak around. They don't. They step in to arrest you.
No, I'm saying every time you win a court case,
for the one exception to the rule you can show these days where the government is fighting for free speech, I can bring up 30 examples of. I can bring you up for the one you can show. I can bring you 30 examples of showing them limiting people's free speech.
You're ignoring the fact that every time someone wins a court case regarding their free speech, that's the government, because the government is the one enforcing that law that helped them win their case.
Half the time it's the people going against the government to get their free speech taken. This is what happened when the people who were speaking against Bush during the 2000 whatever it was 4 election period, right? They got told to step back while the promoters were allowed to come. People who were pro-Bush were allowed to come forth, and the people who were anti-Bush were kicked back because there were supposedly security issues. And free speech went under the bus. Now there's free speech zones, bro. Okay, same with protesting at the Supreme Court. You're not allowed to do that anymore. Why? Because the government implies free speech zones. So please don't tell me the government's always standing up for free speech.
Yeah,
that's just disingenuous.
Anytime you win a law, it's like anytime you win a ruling based on the law, that law was put in place by the people, which is, you know, like I said, that's the biggest difference between some of us. I still think the government is of the people. And like I say, I completely acknowledge that you guys have reason to not feel that way anymore, and I think it needs to be fixed. But I refuse to let go of my government. That this government, this form of government, and this nation that makes this government, that I value very greatly, because I've been other places that don't have it.
It's funny to me because there's so many studies of all the selective enforced by government. We're not going to do it.
I don't need a single fucking study to tell me what it's like to be in a country that doesn't have a government like ours, because I've been.
Yeah, and I don't need a single fucking study to tell me that this United States government is not the same one that you're thinking of, bro. Because I've been in places in this country where all the things that you've seen in overseas happens here.
Well, I'm not saying that there are not, but just like when we were talking earlier about the violations of police officers doing really bad things, it happens. Just like
so you don't think selective enforcement occurs?
But I'm not going to throw all law enforcement under the bus because of a couple of bad things. Same thing, I won't throw my entire government, my entire nation under the bus because of some bad things. I will try to fix the bad things.
Well, keep us posted on that one. The fact that anybody cannot
no swearing, my kid's here.
The fact that no one can acknowledge mass selective enforcement is mind-boggling to me.
Can I say one thing off topic?
Mm-hmm.
Stone, best after chat ever, dude. Awesome.
Like he had anything to do with it.
I haven't heard a word out of him.
He provided the forum. That's the best thing anybody can do these days.
That's funny.
G-Webs is going to be like, I provided the forum.
I facilitate the guest.
Whatever. Awesome stuff.
No, it's been a good chat. So what other so we beat that into the ground, I would say. Along with
Stone Guy created a good chat. Is like saying Obama's teleprompter gives good speeches.
Oh, what about Obama? What was the thing? I'd have to go back and look it up, but I know it was something recent, pretty bold of him, where he basically told Senate or Congress, "Go ahead with your vote. I'm just going to veto it. Whatever you come with, I'm just going to veto." It seems like as of now, he's just being pretty ballsy and really has nothing to lose, and I'm kind of scared at what he's got.
Yeah, that happens with pretty much all second term, last 2 years president.
Full on friggin' mode.
But they are held back by one thing, and that's they will get a little brash, and then usually their party will step in and go, "Hey, listen, asshole, just because you can't get elected again doesn't mean we don't want to get someone else from our group elected again, so tone it down a bit."
Well, realistically, I mean, he's really set some precedents in his term, things we've never thought we'd see in this country. He is royally
Such
fucked
as.
us over on.
Such as? Seriously? Was that a serious statement, or are you kidding?
He's saying this like recently. He's done some stuff. I want to hear what he's done recently.
I don't know, like nationalized healthcare?
XM855 ban?
Would you and nationalized healthcare
insurance are two different things.
Would you and Obamacare just fuck already and get over with it? Because you're obviously in love with each other. So
Yeah, you know what? Here's the funny thing, though. That's like the first time in the history of this country where government has forced somebody to buy a product, and for you to go, what's happened lately?
National health care
Ladies
is
and gentlemen,
totally
Yankee Marshall,
from what
please
we
subscribe
have.
to
I would be in favor of a single-payer system if it actually worked, but what we have is mandatory insurance, which just puts more money in Anthem's pocket, and that pisses me off because,
Which has been my number one complaint all along when it was going on. I was like, single payer is a far better option than this stupid plan.
I'm not even saying like it's it's perfect, but it's better than what Obamacare is.
Oh yeah,
Canada's not perfect with their single payer, but at least it's not mandatory insurance. Like, I don't understand why people are like, we have socialist medicine now. It's like, no, we don't. Everybody has to buy insurance. It's
like one of my friends is from London. He just lives right down the street from us, and he's from London, and he's like, I don't understand this, that you have a child and you go bankrupt, or you break your leg and you go bankrupt, or you have appendicitis and you go bankrupt.
You have knee surgery.
I mean, I don't know.
I had knee surgery back in May. I had reconstructive surgery, and I thought I had really great insurance. I was told it was great, and my premiums were really like moderate per month, and I was like, all right, here we go. And I ended up getting slammed with bills in every which possible way. I just got them paid off like a month ago, and I mean, I'm like, I must have bought my surgeon a new yacht. I'm not even kidding you. Like, all the collections and everything else, it was crazy. And I'm like, I'm all about, hey, I got what I needed done and I had to pay for it, but the cost, it's just like, I didn't realize this, but I had to stay in the hospital for a couple of days, and one of the things they bill you for is like the toothbrush and the toothpaste, and it's like $90 for a Crest toothbrush and toothpaste kit. And I'm like, shit, if I'd have known that, I'd have just brought mine from home. Like, had no idea it was going to cost $90.
We had a thing not too long ago where we had a surgical procedure done in our family, and we have great insurance, but we got the bill as if we didn't have any insurance. And I told them, I'm like, why did I just get a bill for $82,000?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we're sorry, that was a clerical error, blah, blah, blah. Your insurance wasn't entered in the right line, so it didn't bill your insurance. Your insurance being billed, you'll get a thing. So then we get a statement later that our insurance has been billed $31,000. And I'm like, well, why is it $31,000 when my insurance is paying it, but it was $80-something thousand when they thought we were paying it?
Oh yeah, well, it's because the insurance has contracts with the medical providers.
So it's such a racket they got.
They're only allowed to charge a certain amount to the insurance.
And if that's the first time you got double billed, your insurance and you, then wow, lucky you.
Yeah, well, I actually have excellent insurance. I actually don't have like standard insurance. I have, Kaiser, which is an HMO, but it's awesome. I mean, I pay $5 if I go in and I have a tummy ache or a brain tumor. I end up paying $5. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
I have a select PPO.
I don't think people realize until they go to file taxes this year exactly what's going on.
Well, mine was pretty simple. He just asked, did you have insurance? And I was like, yup, and that's it. Like, it didn't go beyond that. And then I filed some of my medical bills that were over whatever the amount was that I ended up having to pay. If it's like so much out of pocket, you can deduct some of that. Yeah. But yeah, I ended up, like the Yankee said, it's like I ended up getting a bill for like $75,000, and I'm like, okay, good luck with that. I'm not worth anything anywhere near. Like, I'm actually worth more dead than I'm alive. Like,
well, if you do a cash pay option, I kid you not, if you set it up beforehand, a lot of times a cash pay will be less expensive in the long run than if you actually filed with your insurance. Because
what they ended up doing, I'll tell you, yeah, going forward, I know this is like the I don't know, some people may not think this is like a good thing to do, but yeah, going forward, I'll tell you what, I'll just forget my insurance card that day because, like, I'm reading, like, because, you know, my gross annual was so much of the medical bill that if I didn't have insurance, one of the reasons I got denied financial aid when it finally all came, you know, like it goes back through the insurance company and they finally decide what exactly it is I owe for like the 20 different departments and the 30 different bills. And that's the other thing is the billing is so ass backwards. But regardless, you know, I finally figured out, okay, I owe X, Y, and Z. You know, the financial aid's like, yeah, we can't give you financial aid, and the reason given is had insurance. And it's like, well, son of a bitch, had I known that, I just went in there like, I don't have insurance. So then you look at the back of the little forms, and they go, well, you make this much, so if your bill equals this much, then you only owe, you know, it like breaks it down based on how much you make. And yeah, like you're saying, Stone Guy, like, yeah, I would have ended up owing way less out of pocket than I ended up paying just because I had insurance. I couldn't get financial aid. And then on top of that, you know, when I did get the financial aid, most of it ended up going to collections anyway, because I'm like, I can't make these payments. So, well, that's just me.
You're one of those deadbeats that's driving up all the rest of those insurance rates.
That's what I'm going to end up being if I got to do this again. It just wasn't worth it to go through the insurance.
All right, so we're coming up on the deadline for the M855. What's the green tip? What's the designation?
855, is that what it is? 85.
XM
XM855 or SS109.
What?
M193 is the ball round. What's the green?
Yeah, the M855 is the
M855. Yeah.
Somebody want to? Cause I'm lost on that.
The green tip, really?
Yeah, dude, I've been out of the gun game since I got hurt. I can't walk, I can't shoot.
Well, basically, the ATF has determined that M855 green tip is a armor-piercing round because it can go through soft body armor and it can be fired out of an AR pistol. So they're claiming they have the authority to ban it, basically.
Speaking of Jesus, I just read his time like.
So what was the deadline to get your letters in for that? Is it the 15th or the 16th?
I don't think it's quite over yet. I mean, I've been writing my senators and congressmen every single day about it.
Yeah, gee whiz, you know, don't you? 16th?
Yep.
I spent like 2 hours yesterday just going to every automatic website form thing I could find and doing them.
Now, is he gonna like bill this in like how he does everything else? Just sign it in executive order.
Executive order, but it's through the ATF. Isn't the ATF the one facilitating the ban, or is it strictly Obama?
Is it actually an executive order, or is it just an interpretation of existing protocols?
Well, the way the press secretary at the White House spun it was, we told you we were going to do everything we could with the pen and the phone for common sense gun laws and restrictions. And he even said it like 2 days ago. So.
Officers Protection Act of 1986 or 84 that gives the ATF authority to ban any pistol caliber that is capable of penetrating standard police body armor.
Well, that's not an executive order. That's actually just.
It's actually it's legislation. But when the law was written, one of these senators or congressmen who was involved in the bill specifically stated during the creation of the law that it would be against the spirit of the law to ban rifle calibers with this legislation.
Well, and actually, the ammo that they're trying to ban now is specifically written to that legislation, exempting it. And we can all thank Ronald Reagan for that, by the way.
Wait, are you dissing
for the exemption?
Reagan, no, not for the exemption, for the law being signed. But trust me, I'm not a Reagan fan.
The Gipper?
Yeah. Anyway, let's get you. This is not my chat to get
Let's
into.
Get it. So wait. Let's be honest. So it was a month after the SIG brace thing, and then this happens, and then the White House press secretary is basically taking credit for it, like 2 days ago.
Or it's more like 2 weeks after, but.
So basically, it might be. It's not an executive order, but it is him using the phone. In my opinion, he made the phone call.
This has taken several months for the ATF to craft. Like, this didn't just happen overnight. This took a while.
Well, and they know they're going against a congressional exemption, right? So they're wanting this fight, or they think people are too stupid to notice that there was a congressional exemption specifically for that round, right? And this is when they started banning all the steel core that was coming in from China and everything like that. So,
yeah, well, then maybe there's a good thing. Maybe if it is up against a definite congressional exemption, maybe it'll come back and kick them in the ass. And
it very likely will.
No, read it. Read it. It says in there that we understand that there's a conflict between this point and this point, but we feel that Congress would rule over officer safety over having this ammo available, since it's not even sporting and it can hurt condors. Therefore, we are going to erase this line that says the exception, and then they say there's how to contact them. So that's what it literally. That's what the 17-page notice says. Is what Mule just said in your response to him.
yes, that's what the ATF said.
That can bite them in the ass, and let's hope it bites them in the ass. Because Congress might come back and go, no. So therefore, that's
which America do we live in now?
Congress already has written a letter, right? 40 Congress people are on board.
100 now.
It was 200 or something.
Whatever happened with the
200 now? Seriously?
At least
There's a lot of congressmen. Yeah.
Yes.
yeah. there's a
whatever
lot.
happened with the
Yeah,
545.
the NRA and GOA have been very good about firing up
So,
their
if the Congress is the one who are responsible for oversight over the executive branch's legislation, or what am I saying? The regulatory and enforcement agencies, right? The executive branch is there to run them, but the oversight goes to the Congress as a check and balance, right? So that's telling us that in this situation with the M855, if it's true that there's hundreds of Congress people over there yelling at the ATF for what they're doing, then isn't that the system doing what it's designed to do, and aren't we effectively poking it to get it to do what it's supposed to do?
Yeah, I hope we are poking it. Here's what I would love to see happen from this. And I'm not saying this is what's going to happen, but this is what I'd love to see. I would love to see Congress go, no, you can't override us, and you definitely can't go against not only the spirit of what we wrote, but the text of what we wrote. So therefore, we're not going to allow this. And then the ATF basically goes, fuck you, we'll do it anyway. And then Congress goes, oh yeah? Cancel funding for the ATF.
Well, whatever happened with the 545 ban? Did that go through? Is that effectively in place?
Going through.
Because that's Congress's biggest power is to remove funding.
Yeah.
Well, now
they're trying to bring their new ATF head in, so they can also effectively screw with them by not whatever they call that commission.
Congress has the power of the purse, but unfortunately, and this is something else to reiterate in this debate, is when we're talking about you got to bring in the executive. Executive's theoretically not allowed to be making law. They're only supposed to be ensuring the enforcement of it, and I think that's often forgotten about, especially when you start bringing in executive order, and then of course the Justice Department in league with the executive, and then of course the lack of anything when it comes to judicial.
Well, let's draw a parallel between the M855 and the 545. Since the 545 ban has went through and been implemented, what's the difference, or is there a difference in how
the difference was the same exact set of two instances that made the 545 reachable by the ATF in their minds?
Because
there
it
was
would
an
be shot out
exception
of a pistol.
So that whatever that we won't get into the specifics, but the thing that they were allowed to do in their mind with the 545, they weren't allowed to do with M855 because there was an exception. So what's different between then and now is this time they're simply going to say, because we feel Congress would care about officer safety more than the conflict here, we're going to erase this line so there's no conflict, and therefore the M855 will be in the exact same position as the 545.
Right, and
Congress to say, no, you can't do that.
And the reason why
that's exactly right.
The reason why they're doing it is because they got away with the 454.
Thank you.
Because they got away with that. Now they're going to get away with it. Now they feel they have
and the barrels on the shotguns and barrels on parts kits. It's because they've been unstopped. That nothing has stopped them.
Well, now that's what I'm trying to figure out. Maybe you've answered.
Because now they're actually violating the text of a law. So.
Well, that's what I'm trying. That's what I was about to ask. That's what I'm trying to wrap my head around. Is okay. We know the 545. That was primarily imported. Were they able to pass that strictly based on the import regulation of a round that's can be fired out of a pistol.
Had
Yes,
nothing
that
to
was
do
the
with
key
its
element
import
there.
status, really.
That was the key element, that it was an imported round.
Okay,
The
so
import
considering
only came up because the definition of so the only reason the import came up is because the only reason the government, the NFA, doesn't define ammo. The government doesn't care about ammo. There's nothing that we've ever given the government as power over ammo, but what we have given them is the power to import shit. So they had to say, or they decided it was important to stop the importation of certain armor-piercing ammo, so that means they needed to define what armor-piercing ammo was. That's the only reason we get into importation, is because the law that defines armor-piercing is because of an importation thing that they say they have control over, and then they're now using that thing that we gave them on the slippery slope and using it for an ammo that is, like you say, not typically imported, but mostly domestically made. However, I still say, when I've done this research before, the reason that that exemption is there, the reason it says armor-piercing ammo is all this, and this are all the definitions of armor-piercing ammo, except M855 and Steel Core 30-06, I believe it was because we wanted to have offshore production of our service projectiles at the time. It was a strategic thing that we, and the Philippines, the Arms Corps. We have contracted with Arms Corps for forever. I think, one, to help them out, because it's a cool way to help out a country by giving them a bunch of money for buying all their ammo, but it also puts ammo somewhere where we might need it, because I think we fought a war over there one time before, and it'd be nice to have an ammo factory over there in case we ever need it.
That's unfortunately, that's why I always tell people, do not rely on things that are imports, because the government has, the regulatory bodies have way too much control over imports.
Hence why I want smaller government, because they don't need the control over the.
I thought the government is the people.
Yeah.
We are the people. The government is the people.
We live in a country where the vast majority of the people, all you got to do is tell them that, hey, this is an armor-piercing round, and they're going to be like, yeah, ban it.
All right, I understand what you guys are saying when you guys were talking about the government, or laughing at Yankee for saying the government is the people. I tend to just want to stand more with Yankee on that one. But will you agree that right now the people are sleeping, and when the people wake up, that they can take it back over? Or do you guys suggest that the system is so inherently flawed that it needs to be torn down or something?
See,
what he just said. The people would vote to take away all of the guns in America right now because they are a sheep.
We've been lulled to sleep, and we're kind of doing whatever we're told whenever there's a cookie and milk in front of it. But if we can wake up and harden up, don't you think that we can? It is the people.
Yes.
Someone gave me cookies.
Voting helps, and obviously, look. Right now, if Nancy Pelosi was running the Congress and she had a stronghold grip on everything going on through Congress, you think there'd be hundreds of people running around through Congress trying to sign this bill? Maybe, but I mean, this is all because of a vote that happened, and the power struggle switched. The power switched.
I just hope this becomes a fight between the ATF and Congress. I hope they make it a thing. I hope it becomes my dick is bigger than yours, because Congress will win.
Since 1913, we've seen 5 constants: an increase in size in government, a reduction in personal liberty, a continuation of policy from one administration to the next, continuation of the devaluing of our monetary system, and both parties have been responsible. To expect any change after everything that we have seen over and over and over and over and over again is a lesson in futility. And
the definition of insanity.
It's only insanity if you continue to do the same things, which means if you continue to not vote and just sit around.
I haven't said anything about not voting. It's not about voting. We are voting, but we're voting.
No, most people don't. Most people don't bother to go fucking vote. It's like when they're making a big deal. Oh, this is not a presidential election, so people aren't showing up. That's more fucking important to show up for the non-presidential election.
Midterms are a big deal.
Yankee, let me ask you a question. Why do you think most people don't go out and vote? Because they're sick of the government and they see no way to fix it. I think okay, you might not. I do.
Because they're fat, lazy bastards.
Well, maybe around you, okay? But I live in a pretty rural area, and we do actually get out and vote. But for the most part, most people are just sick of the government, and they don't see any way to change it, right? I believe that the United States foundation is still solid, but the fact that we've gone off the foundation and we've built this house and now it's full of termites and it's rotted to the core. So I believe, and this is me, my tinfoil hat, that we need to tear the building down and rebuild on the foundation. Right? And most people I know who do vote do it skeptically, and the majority of the people I just know, acquaintances and friends and everybody, don't vote because they know it's not going to do anything. You need to make a better hat if you're going to hang with me, bro. My tinfoil hats look like baseball caps, and I have one that's a tri-corner.
I just want to say, like, well, what a huge win it would have been for them to do this. If they just snuck this through, this would have been such a huge win. I mean, they're already saying like ammo would have gone up at least 20-30% on AR-15 ammo. That's 50% of all the 5.56 in America available to shooters, so that would have been taken away. The buying frenzy, the panic buying that would have started right after that would have been insane on everything. 9mm, 22.
They're trying to get rid of their M855 because they're going to a new round, and they know that by poking us, by giving us this set of stimulus, we're going to run out and panic buy, and we're going to buy up all that M855. And is there anything behind that?
Yeah, that could have validity.
Have you heard that one yet, Mule? They've been talking about it in gun channels.
Yes, I have, and it doesn't surprise me. I kind of thought that like day 2 after it, and I thank God that I'm an AK guy. Yeah, it could be all just a smoke screen to generate, the economy. I mean, think about it. One of the biggest boosts to the economy in the past 4 years has been gun manufacturers. It's just starting to slow down where Ruger's got little overstock, because everybody's been buying in these frenzies because every time they poke the bear goes panics and goes buys everything.
And talk about market research. I mean, when you look at it from that perspective, it's not. It's as though they've practiced and it's like they did it and it happened. They did something and then that happened, and then they did something else and that happened again. But then it's almost like they figured it out, and they've been almost, again, I would say with 2020 hindsight, you could make a case for looking back on some of the last scares, quote unquote scares, and engineered, question mark. Were they just perfecting how to get a rise out of us, distract us from other issues potentially? Like you say, financially give the country a boost, and what do they lose in all this? They get to make us look like a bunch of paranoids again, because they'll spin it that we're worried about whatever racist shit they want to throw on us, and what do they have really to lose there? We go out and spend a bunch of money. They win because they get taxes on all of that. The antis get to run around and complain about how we are so reactionary. How do you know if that's legit or not, or if it's just the levels in the water after the stone hit, and that's just our way of making sense of it all?
But you can make that argument for a lot of things.
With public information requests, perhaps. I mean, if there was literally a plan to do it, there might be something.
I mean, people are making the same arguments right now, like they're saying, look at all these oil trains derailing right when they're trying to build an oil pipeline. It sounds to me like they're trying to make an argument for better pipelines are safer.
Or maybe the railroads were built back in the 30s for wagons that were coming across with human beings in them, and now we're throwing oil in them constantly, and the train tracks are falling apart because we're not funding the crews.
Well, we haven't funded infrastructure anyway. Don't even get me started on the infrastructure nightmare. But to say that that's not a possibility of them doing these things is ridiculous. I mean, look at L.A. in the 40s, right? Tons of streetcar accidents all of a sudden started happening, and it came to find out that it was the car companies doing it that wanted to buy up and do away with the streetcars because they didn't want public transportation in Southern California. They wanted everybody buying cars. So the legitimacy of that plan is out there, and it happened here in the United States.
No, yeah, I mean, it happens all the time. I mean, just look at, that's happened in the solar industry, electric car industry, that's happened all the time. So that's not like that's completely out of the pale crazy. I mean, because it happens.
So it's only a paper hat thing, not a tinfoil.
A tinfoil hat, but only one layer of foil.
It's like one of the tinfoils you make out of the hamburger wrapper that's kind of got foil on it, but also wax paper.
Oh, but those smell so good, you get to smell like a cheeseburger all day.
I feel like we're recycling, so we're making changes and we're doing it.
Sometimes you're against government, and sometimes you're for it.
I am an enigma wrapped in a riddle rolled in bacon, so get over it.
Yankee's just a I've met him. He's just a little Oriental lady who just plays this persona online to make money.
Yep. Ming Lee is my actual name.
That actually makes a lot of sense considering.
Yeah, no, Yankee just likes a good fight.
You're just mad 'cause I wouldn't love you long time.
And he doesn't win him at home, so he's got to win him out here.
Hey, I occasionally win a fight at home. I just bought a new Jeep.
Well, man, I think that's a good place to end it.
Have you made enough money tonight, Stone Guy?
Say it again.
In the hundreds.
Have you made enough money tonight?
Not yet. Let's see. Let's see what happens. Still got.
What is it? $1,000 per viewer? So you made about 74 viewers. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I didn't know how many viewers there are. Oh,
We didn't even get up to the hands up, don't shoot. DOJ, ended their investigation that said that narrative was completely false. That there was too many witnesses that said that didn't happen.
Oh, you're talking about on Ferguson?
Yeah. Then they said the police department was racist, which who knows about. But at least like that one particular incident that pretty much Eric Holder said hands up, don't shoot. Probably didn't happen. It didn't happen. Or if it did happen, if they thought it happened, they would have done something about it. So
that's one of those stories that you could look at it as good or bad from so many different angles.
Yeah, it was. I just felt like, wow, because they were showing like on television all the Congress people who took the opportunity to go on the floor of the Congress and do it. Hands up. Don't shoot, and basically it was just a rally cry. So who knows?
Even if it never happened, they're making a point, it's not an actual call to they're not under oath. So.
Yellow journalism and propaganda at its finest.
And
now they'll come out later and say, oh, by the way, that actually didn't happen. But by then everybody's so beyond the story, all they will remember is hands up, don't shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All I'm going to remember
the
is
retraction. That's why, anytime they have a front page story they got to retract, they put that back by the sports section.
You know what's funny is that right after 9/11, this country was together. I felt like, where I lived, the city I lived in, people were like, it didn't matter. We were all Americans. We were all we all united under one flag, and it was like I haven't seen it since then, and we are just so fucking divided right now, and it's just so horrible, dude.
Took advantage of it.
You're wrong, DB. I disagree.
Yeah, I just think this is like the most divisive times ever, dude.
Unfortunately, too many people in power decided that everybody's united, so all we got to do is start saying you're either with us or against us, and everyone will let us do whatever the fuck we want to do because we're all united and we're all with us, right? So they started just abusing it to the point where it's gone.
Well, because it's to the corporate advantage. To abuse that. I mean, what was the rally cry after 9/11? Go out and shop?
Yeah, go buy a car. Yeah. And I admit, I did go buy a car right after 2 weeks after 9/11, went out and bought a new truck because they told me to.
Yeah, no, I drove my brother-in-law down to the cleanup site and poured beers for guys that I owned a bar at the time, and then no cop or fireman drank.
Wait. So you didn't clean up? You just went and made a mess?
They didn't let a lot of civilians go in and clean up. You either had to be FDNY or you had to be part of the paid construction crews that were going down and clean up. You couldn't go down to World Trade Center and just say, I want to help. They would send you off-site, and you could help in plenty other ways off-site. My way was letting them drink for free in my bar.
Hell yeah.
So I wish I knew where that bar was.
It was in Sullivan County, New York, right outside of Liberty, where actually a lot of firefighters and cops actually live because they don't really live in the city.
They don't make enough money.
Yeah, they don't make enough money to live
there. They got a $130,000, high up fireman salary. That's high up.
Yeah, for the most part, most of those guys don't live in the city. They all share an apartment. Most crews in the work area, they'll share an apartment, and they all kick into it, and they live upstate. So.
Well, damn, man, I appreciate everybody on the panel tonight. That was a great chat. Appreciate everybody tuning in, watching, and that was awesome. So.
You throw a hell of a live show, Stone Guy.
Yeah, you do, dude. I quit doing this one.
Remember when we used to have chats like this, like every week?
Yeah, yeah.
Every day.
I still did in the Dragon until it pissed me off, and now I'm taking a break.
But anyway, I'm gonna cut it here. I appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.